go. I also want to start off by acknowledging the week that has happened and the traumatic week, especially for our Black community. And I just want to say that my head is not in the game today. And if you have reached out and emailed me for something and I haven't responded, please, I apologize. I'm very much focused on doing that kind of work lately. So you might need to gently nudge me if you need me. Okay. Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna invite Susan and Sarah, and I think Bill Rich will join us in a bit to share with us about a really great opportunity called Learning Lab. So I'm gonna hand this over to you two.
Susan, do you want to start by explaining what Learning Lab is? And then when you're done, I'll tell everyone how awesome my experience was.
I feel like I should punt that back to you though, because then if you say what it was and it's something different than what I designed for, that would be interesting feedback, right? I will say quickly though, I'll introduce myself. I'm Susan Hennessy. I work for the Tarrant Institute for Innovative Education and get a chance to partner with a whole bunch of educators around the state. Gosh, I'm going into my 10th year with them. For those of you who don't know us, we do professional development to support basically student engagement in schools and try to work to partner with schools to kind of just amplify the things that you're doing anyway. And so a number of years ago, Bill Rich and I partnered up because part of what we were trying to offer through Tarrant was an opportunity for different partner teachers to be able to learn from and with each other by seeing each other's practice, going into each other's schools. We just didn't have a system in place that allowed us to actually do that without it turning into something that we needed to sort of direct and facilitate outside of what we were just doing with the partnership. So we're going into our 4th year. And basically, we don't necessarily have a curriculum per se, because what it is the work that you're doing around personalized and proficiency-based learning becomes the fodder for what we're all going to learn together from and with each other. We meet a number of times a year. We get to learn from each other. We recognize that there are students that are going to be important back in our classrooms that become site-based teams to support when we go on visits or when we host visits to learn from each other. And then we kind of reflect together as a community, so it's sort of a network community. And then we try to inform the field what we've learned from both our challenges and our opportunities and our successes. I think that's enough for now, because I think, Sarah, if you take it from here, we can make that more concrete.
Yeah, so I applied to Learning Lab last year, so not this school year, but the previous year, to work on some systemic change within my building. And I worked with Alina, who also teaches with me. And we kind of went into it knowing what we wanted to do, but not everybody does. And it ends up being a really, really strong community where you can just try stuff out with your kids and your colleagues and in your school and learn from it. And Bill and Susan really help you come up with what is it you want to focus on, what's the professional development that you need right now in order to improve your practice in your classroom. And you just kind of go through a whole lot of reflection and a whole lot of trying stuff. And you end up feeling really, really supported and like you have a really safe space to try stuff. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, that's great too. And it was just so powerful for me that I'm going to try to do it again, and everybody should. And then Alina just joined us. Since you did Learning Lab too, do you want to just share briefly what your experience was like? We've talked about kind of what it is generally.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was a little late getting in. I was finishing up a call with another colleague. Yeah, for me, the most awesome aspect of it is how much we could tailor our own learning to whatever it is that we were interested and focused on. Because so often professional development that gets thrown out there is all about whatever the next initiative is. So having something that, as long as it was somehow connected to personalized learning, which everything can be connected to personalized learning, we had a lot of freedom to come up with that question that we wanted to explore and look through all sorts of different avenues of how we were to go about it. It was also, I was a less on time learner, I guess you could say. So Bill and Susan were always great about sending reminders when stuff needed to get updated, or if I was running behind on things. It was like, you know, it's a little flexible. So like if you don't have this post done by exactly this date, like it's okay, you can still get it done. So it's not a high pressure kind of situation. Like sometimes when you're taking a traditional graduate course, you have, you know, deadlines for stuff, and there still are dates for things so that you're progressing through, but it's not a super strict situation. It's very flexible. So yeah.
Does anybody have any questions so far at this point? Okay, maybe do you want to go into a little bit more about the process and how it works, that kind of stuff?
Sure, I'd love to, because I think if I were wondering about this, I'd be like, well, is this a class? Is it a course? Is it we call it a practicum. And so you can either take it for recertification credits or for graduate credit. We meet in the summer for an orientation so that you get to see who your cohort mates are around the state. So this year we have 6 middle schools represented and elementary schools. Last cohort we had 11 schools with like 22 teachers. And once you get to meet each other, you recognize some overlap into your interests. And that's how we start to network you. So you might come as in the summer with already kind of having an idea what you want to work on. And then you frame it as an inquiry question. So the idea is the rest of the school year, you're going to be trying to implement something with supports from us. So Bill and I will come to your school and do some coaching if we need to, or we'll work directly with your coaches to say, look, this thing is happening, and you're already doing some work together there. How can we like amplify the resources that we can bring? Because really what it is a network of people. And then early on, you start to see that, oh, Amanda and Kevin over at Williston, or Kyle and Andrew up in Orleans, they're doing something really similar around project-based learning, and they're having a hard time scaffolding it for the kids. And so we're going to go and visit and see what they're doing. And when you go on a visit, you're not just standing in the back of the classroom while somebody's instructing. You're invited in to be able to be a partner and give feedback and critique and learn from the students. And the students are ready because you've already let the students know, hey, we're going to have some visitors and they're going to see our work. Then you leave and you sort of steal and take and beg and borrow and give feedback back. And we try to get together 3 times during the school year for Saturdays. We've been doing those digitally online. We have 2 overnights where we ask people to come on a Friday from 5 to the next day around 3. And that's when you really do like the connected work with the cohort colleagues. And so we do some light facilitation around that. So those are the kind of expectations for time to continue to do the inquiry work. And then finally, we have an online WordPress site where we ask you to reflect and you get to read what other people are doing, and you post questions and then get responses back. Because again, the idea is that you're learning from each other. And once a week, we prompt you, Bill and I, with something to potentially do. So it might be read this short article or respond to somebody else's work, but there's not a textbook per se. In the end, you're just going to be summarizing the data that you collected and analyzed with your students around your inquiry question. So you're just sharing what worked, what might not have, how you might do something differently the next time. And then we give you a whole bunch of opportunities to inform the field. What we really mean by that is like, are you going to present at a conference? Do you have something that you're sharing with your faculty? Is there a way to share out the learning that you've done in a way that becomes really powerful for our Vermont community? And we don't really, it can be almost anything. You folks were able to join us, Alina and Sarah, and we presented at a conference in California, the Deeper Learning Conference, some of the work that had been done. So sometimes there's an opportunity to have a broader audience, or it might be fairly small, but really impactful in your own district. So I just said a lot. I'm going to stop talking in case there are questions or curiosities.
Well, I'm wondering, I think there are folks on here that probably have some things that they do want to work on. I know I've spoken to some of these faces here on project ideas before, and And so I guess, yeah. Oh, that's a great question, Lisa. Like some of the inquiry question ideas, some more like resources where they can go. I think you have a website. And I don't know if you have other examples of what teachers have done on that website or not, or because I think it would be really great to be able to explore that.
Yeah, give me just a second to pull it up. And I do know that I just got a text from Bill. He said, sorry, I think he's going to be joining us in a second. And I thought that he had some of this queued up.
Now. Hi, Bill. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry for being tardy and muted and whatever I happen to do next.
Thanks for joining us. They were just to catch you up. They just kind of shared what it was about. Sarah and Alina shared their experience. We talked about the process and sort of like the time commitment and the commitment to the whole thing. And Susan right now is looking for some, she's going to share some examples of inquiry questions and maybe some more resources around this. So if you would like to add more to this,
I'd love to be asked the question somebody needs to get answered. What's on the tip of your tongue, or whether it's in those categories or it's just something you're really curious about. And hi, Tanya, I don't know you. So I'm Bill.
You must know some of these other people. You know Alina, you see Sarah.
I do.
11 people in here.
Oh, there are many people here. Sorry, I was in the wrong view.
13.
Oh.
Well, including all of us, 13 total.
Great.
And Sarah just posted in the chat, in case everybody's wondering, some example questions. I know personally I'm interested because it looks like such a great way. I mean, I'm always like thinking of what we can do. And I know in our team, we project plan a lot, but just to have that, take it to the next level of like how we can take even our coaching system to the next level and other things that we may personally want to work on. And to be able to like share. And I mean, I think, as teachers, how isolating our work is and that we don't get the opportunity to collaborate oftentimes outside of our classroom, never mind outside of our buildings, and never mind, and even further outside of our SU, there's like no chance. And I feel that way too as a coach. It's a very isolating role that often no one knows how to guide us. And we are very fortunate in our SU to have a team that works really, really well together. And so I would love to see where we can take our team for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. Does anyone in the group have a real pressing question?
Bill, I was just queuing up to answer about some inquiry questions. And so if it makes sense to screen share, I can just show a few of those. And let me see if I can get you here. All right, I'm assuming that folks can see that, the blog posts that I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So this is for this year's Learning Lab, this crew. So there's a video here, and I'll make sure I put the link in the chat, where people basically said hello, who they were, and what those inquiry questions were. So if you can see that, I'll leave that up for a minute. Many of them tend to lean toward project-based unit development, but there's also, what does it look like to team in a way that can be powerful for students? So this year we have a general educator with a special educator co-teacher, and what was that like to do some negotiated curriculum with students so that they felt there was some agency there. It was really interesting. The inquiry questions themselves start off pretty broad, and then again, when we start to learn from and with each other, they tend to morph toward things that feel impactful and pragmatic in their classrooms too. So they're not coming with a brand new unit, they're coming with an idea of what they want to spend some time thinking about, and then they just implement it as it goes.
So it's pretty open-ended.
Absolutely. And again, it's meant to be pragmatic in the sense that it's the work that I'm already implementing in my school, but I need to like think a little differently about how can I gather some data and collect some information from my students and my coworkers and people who come for visits to try to figure out whether this is working or not. We don't tend to give ourselves a lot of reflective practice time. And so that's sort of what you'd be doing. And I just wanted very quickly for people to see when I mentioned that there is a website for us. This is locked down to everybody who's part of the cohort. And what we do is we send out just a weekly reminder of something to do. And then folks post some reflective posts along the way to be able to share the learning. And we tend to call them bright spots, belly flops sometimes, because that's really, excuse me, in the grand scheme of things, that's what is actually happening, right? We're always both learning from things that are going well and then also times when they're not, so. Like when I can't figure out if I'm, I've been doing the Zoom and Google Meets forever, and I need a second monitor to be able to even know if I'm doing this right or not. There have been so many times I'm talking away and nobody's like, really? Months of this.
Everybody's so polite. Don't say anything. So I know that Alina and Sarah joined as a group. Do you have to join with another teaching partner, or is this something you could join as an individual?
Bill, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure, both are welcome. We find people who come as individuals have great experiences. At the end, a little bit wishing they had someone or other people there to share it with, and people who come with others tend to have something that's a little bit more impactful and enduring afterwards. So, but both are welcome. And when I'm trying to give somebody the skinny on this who's a teacher, and I really consider myself a teacher, even though I've been out of the classroom, the regular classroom for a while, there are two features of this. One is that it's a little bit like a student teaching experience, again, in the sense that you're part of a cohort. Everybody's assuming you're coming with more questions than answers. Like, here's the thing I'm trying to get better at. And the other is, so the curriculum is the classroom and the network, and it builds as we go. It's less, here's this week's reading, everybody talk about it here. Here's a chapter we're all going through. It's much more individually based on your inquiry question, as it fits within our three overarching essential questions. But that's a broad tent. So really, for many people, it's, are you game for doing the kind of learning experience that is part of a community? It's transparent, and we're very deliberate about building the kind of community where that feels safe and comfortable. But this is not your, here's a way to get a course, get some credits, and I can do things on my own and not really have to engage with others to get my students even knowing about this. It's more like, no, this is open. My students know, people are coming in. I'm going to other places. I'm being encouraged to share my results with colleagues in ways that make sense. So, which to me makes me very, like, that's my kind of learning experience. So I think this is an amazing experience, and I would encourage you to consider coming and playing with us. We're really good at getting to know you and helping you with the edges you're working on, rather than making you work on the edges we want you to work on. So I'll pause now, but that's my kind of skinny and take on it.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in again. The community and the networking and the coaching sessions with Bill and Susan have been those were the best pieces for me from my experience. They really did an awesome job of helping us explore what we needed to and being there for us and wherever we were in our journey. Sarah and I were fortunate to be able to do our experience as a duo, which was really awesome. But when we had, our first gigantic roadblock and the two of us ended up in tears at one point because of something, to be able to share that experience, not only with Bill and Susan, but like with our whole cohort of like, hey, this is what we tried to do. This is what happened. Like, what do we do now? Normally that, like Erica was saying, teaching can be so isolating that when you hit those big roadblocks on your own, even if you have a great teaching partner, it's still like you only have so many minds. So having this like other group of people to always go back and connect with is awesome. And even though Sarah and I have been out of Learning Lab now this past year, we were able to still connect. Bill, when he was through Rutland, he still stopped by to catch up with us at one point. And then we're still invited on during the digital time now. They've also been inviting the past Learning Lab cohorts. So Sarah and I, when we can, we've been able to hop on and join some of the roundtable discussions again this spring, which has been really nice. Unfortunately, the last couple have been at the same time as our faculty meeting. So oops. But anyway, but yeah, so just being able to connect with other people, other educators who are also like-minded and wanting to do those same kinds of things as you, to me, that was some of the most powerful part of this, being able to share and connect.
The other thing that was really special about it was that we had some ideas of things that we wanted to change in our school, but we really didn't know how to go about doing it or what we were going to run into. So even just going in with an idea of like, hey, we want to talk about this and we want to try to make some change. And through just showing up with an idea that small, we were able to really do a lot of learning and get a lot of good experiences. And we didn't totally end up making the change that we thought we were going to make, but it's okay because we learned a lot from it.
Yeah, it is. And sorry if this was already said, but we chose the title Learning Lab carefully because one of the dimensions, as we feel too often, people are being asked to do lots of change, but nobody's collecting and triangulating data and asking the question, did that actually make a difference? Or did we just go on to, so to isolate something and to have there be a way to deliberately collect 3 types of data, have some help analyzing that data, not in a heavy-handed research mode where it gets dry and quantitative only, but in a way that I think is helpful because as we say to people, if you're really doing research in your class, you might have great findings that this did not work. And you don't have to polish it up, put lipstick on it to get us to say, wow, nice job. It's about, this is what really happened. And if it is a little bit on the, we've made more mistakes than successes, but why are we more ready to do this wisely and right next year? And sharing that with others who are like, thanks, you went down a cul-de-sac. I'm going to pass on that and go to where you went. You know, that's kind of the idea. We're all in this laboratory, whether we admit it to the public or not, trying to figure out, you know, how can we get a little bit better together at doing this.
So I know you've heard a lot of talking from us, and again, we want to make space for being able to answer questions. One quick thing I would add is that some folks, when they've come as teams, have come not just with core teachers, but along with maybe an innovation coach or an administrator and a special educator or something like that. So there's a power in being able to make change together in this process too, and that we get perspectives that we might not have. So Sarah and Alina might have a scheduling question, and in the cohort is a principal who's just been trying something as well, so that they have a chance to talk across those ways as well.
Awesome. Do we have any questions out there? And if they were interested in applying, where would they go to do this?
Sorry, I'm mid chat putting something in the chat. We'll put the links right in here for you.
Okay. I see. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah. Bill also added a really helpful description of Learning Lab in the link. And I will make sure if you're watching the YouTube video, these are going to be in the description of the YouTube video. So you can find that there. Aha. There's a nice big. Oh, it doesn't seem to open properly, Bill.
Sorry about that. Which one are you referring to? The one I just put in?
The most recent one, yeah.
Okay, I'll try that again. Susan, that's the video. Can you get the application while I get the video? Great, and we'll get those things to you. But let me try that one more time.
Linda Mullen added a comment that said, "Thank you. I love the idea of a cohort that supports one another with your guidance." I do too.
I'll also throw another pitch out there. I don't know what's going to happen with because of COVID this year, but the in-person meetings, especially the overnight sessions, are awesome. It's at first, for the first one that Sarah and I did, we were kind of like, I don't know, do we want to just join digitally or do we want to actually drive out there? So worth it, so amazing. It's just like being able to spend a whole day and night together. Wonderful.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else? Any last thoughts or questions or comments? We are right at 12:30 right now. And Bill just added a tiny URL, so that's the video.
Try that and see if it opens. And sometimes you just want to hear people who are in the experience right now saying what the deal is. And that's what that video is.
Let me do that right now. Yep, it opened.
Terrific.
Awesome. And then Lisa says, oh, what is most important for prospective Learning Lab applications to consider before signing up to ensure success? Do you have any?
I think the application questions make real clear what those things are. One is, we don't meet often, so can you make these dates? The other is, are you game for having your students be part of this? And really, if those two things are in place, the final thing is, does your leadership support you going out of the building and people coming into the building? With those, and so the application kind of asks people to talk about that. Those are really the key things. There's no set readiness. You don't have to come with, I know exactly what my inquiry, you can come blurry, like I'm not quite sure. And we'll help you zoom into something and not try to take on too much. Susan, how's that sound to you?
Sorry, for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time finding the application, but I know it's on the link from UVM that I just sent. So It seems to be buried in there. My apologies. And I don't know if you got to see my cat, but that was in the way too. You all have West Harvard Zoom pets that she's drawn to it like catnip. It's crazy. I'm not usually that mean with my pet, but
I did. It was cute though. And then Lisa asked if we would include these in the newsletter next week. Of course, I think that's a great idea. Well, thank you so much, Susan and Bill and Sarah and Alina, for sharing about Learning Lab and your process and your experience. And I hope you get some applicants.
May I just say one more thing? I'm really sorry, Tanya. I called you out at the beginning. I thought it was just 4 of us. So when all of a sudden I was like, Tanya, I don't know. I wasn't wasn't throwing darts at you right out of the gate there, but may have felt like, sorry about that. I didn't have my view on right. Thanks for hosting. Sorry I was late.
Awesome, no problem. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.